Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening, welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and the team with you here for the next hour, taking a look at the sporting action on Ireland and further afield this weekend on tonight's show. Heading into the latest Manx football fixtures this weekend, just 2 points separate the top three in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. In rugby, Douglas, Vagabonds and Ramsey are back in action on home soil on Saturday, whilst Vagabonds Ladies prepare for a trip across the water. And in hockey, attention switches this weekend as the first rounds of the Mixed Cup competitions take place. That is all to come this evening. Welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio, your latest look ahead to all the football, rugby and hockey action taking place across the Isle of Man and further afield over the coming weekend. It's another packed schedule in Manx football, and to go through it with us, as ever, is our football correspondent Tony Mepham. Tony, very good evening.
Evening to you, Rob.
Well, let's dive straight into the fixtures that we've got then, because it really is hotting up across the respective divisions at the moment, and certainly in the Canada Life Men's Premier League as well, which we'll take a look at first, because just 3 points separate the top three sides of the leaders, Corinthians, Laxey in second and Onken in third, going into this latest set of fixtures. So starting off with the Canada Life Men's Premier League, and we're going to start with the league leaders, Corinthians, because they're going to be back on home soil this weekend, Tony, and they're going to be coming up against St Mary's.
Yeah, when you look at the results last week, Rob, certainly Corinthians dropping points against St John's, St Mary's with that good result. So you're just saying to yourself, could this be a potential win for St Mary's? Now, when you look at the team out there, Therese Thompson with a couple of goals last week, Jack McVeigh's in, no Frank Jones, so I don't know what Frank is, whether he's playing this year or not. I don't think he's played this season, but there's still a lot of quality round, and when you sort of look on the bench last week, Mark Wolfenden was in there, then just tinkering around Alex Harrison with his team selection, but certainly Corinthians without Sean Doyle are going to find it a lot harder, but they've still got players around there. Luke Murray can score goals. You've also got either winger Dan Simpson on that left-hand side. And when you look around at other people, there's always a chance of scoring goals. Corinthians need to keep maximising the points because, you know, Laxey are breathing down their neck, and also Corinthians do have their 3 week coming up, and then you'll probably see a bit of shuffle in the pack. But I'm going to go for Corinthians just for a slight victory against St Mary's.
Yeah, and again, just add a bit of further context when we mentioned 2 points separating the top three at the moment. Corinthians top at the moment, 18 points after 8 games. Laxey in second, 17 points after 7 games. Both those two teams, incidentally, still undefeated at the moment. And then Onken on 16 points. They've won 5 of their 7, 1 draw and 1 defeat. So Laxey and Onken, although Onken 2 points further back, Laxey 1 point further back, do have a game in hand on the current league leaders. Elsewhere over at Gary Moore, Union Mills 9th in the table at the moment, 7 points from their opening 5 games so far. They're going to be hosting St John's United, who have a pretty similar record, 6 points from their opening 6, but just the 1 win so far this season.
Yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this game tomorrow afternoon. It's the game you've sent me to, Rob, and certainly Union Mills will look at it as a confidence booster because they've started to put some good performances together, started scoring goals. I've noticed Owen Quayle's back in the team, so he'll strengthen things up at the back. Tyler Hughes as well's in there, so there's a good chance with him and Jordan Crawley to get the goals. But St John's fought really well last week to get a point away from, or get a point from Corinthians. And I think that's going to be a little bit more difficult maybe tomorrow, purely because Dean Lees is injured, so he's not going to play, and I believe James Rice, who's been playing actually outside, you'll remember him playing in goal for FC Isle of Man, is taking up the number 1 shirt tomorrow. So I spoke to Ricey today and I said, can you confirm it's true? Yes, it is true. So he's going to be in goal. But right the way through the team, they've got a main spine, plenty of goals. Rhys Oates there. I don't think he's scored for his new goal, for his new club yet, but he's looking for a goal, and it might just help against Union Mills. And I just think, both teams need to get maximum points, Rob, because they need to get away from that danger zone. It does look as if it's going to be like Foxdale, Old Boys and Braddon, but just above them is St John's and Union Mills. I think there's so much at stake at this game. I don't think either side will take risks, Rob, so I'm going to go for a draw.
Yeah, and just to add on from what you were saying about those teams in and around the drop zone currently at this stage of the season, Foxdale bottom, yet to register a point. Douglas High School Boys second for bottom, 4 points. Braddon just above them, 1 point above the relegation zone as it stands on 5 points. They're going to be at home against high-flying Onchan, who've been earning plenty of plaudits, including from Tony Mepham, sat across from me so far this season. Just 2 points off the top, 5 wins from 7. Do you anticipate that Onchan could end up extending their good run at the start of the season?
I think so, because they're not just sneaking games, Rob. They're absolutely battering clubs, because they're scoring plenty of goals. And when you look at it sort of last week, absolutely great performance. Max Shirley was with a couple, and then when you look at Ethan Levers, Tom Creer, Andy Asbridge, they've got goals everywhere. Defensively, I've been impressed with Patrick Riley at the back, and just right the way through. The Dawson boys will probably be in the squad, and I think James O'Kelly's got a big problem on his hands, because he's got some really good players in there. And when I watched them play against Corinthians, there's quite a few players came in from the combination and didn't look out of place at all. So it's nice pressure to have. But certainly Braddon, when I watched them early on in the season, I just thought, I can see Braddon staying up this season. But since then, it's gone a little bit sort of against them. And when you look at Duncan Raids being suspended, your more senior players like Mark O'Neill and others have got to sort of step up and get these young players going. And certainly against Onchan, it's going to be difficult. I'm going to go for an away win.
And elsewhere over at Billygo Park, on paper at least, it looks maybe a little bit of a mismatch. Foxdale at the bottom, so 6 defeats from 6 so far. Certainly not the start they'd have hoped for this season. They're coming up against second place Laxey, as we mentioned before, just 1 point off Corinthians at the top at the moment. Laxey also with the best defensive record in the league at this point at the moment, only conceded 6 goals in all games so far. Tony, from Foxdale's side of things, maybe it doesn't seem to be getting any easier at the moment.
No, I watched Foxdale last week, and it was a real sort of struggle for them. Jay Chatwood up front will always score goals, and he was close last week, but there's just unfortunately not much supply to him. There's not much help to him. Midfield, they work hard, but when you haven't got the quality, it's very, very difficult to impose yourself on teams around that sort of league position that you're in. And, against Old Boys, I just expected a little bit more. I know it was sort of tight. What was it, 3-1 at the end? But I just feel certainly against Laxey, when you look at them last week, and what a signing Ed Canner's been, hasn't he? Scoring hatfuls of goals, 3 last week as well. And just really through the team, and as you were saying, there about the defensive record that Laxey have put up at the moment. That's impressive, and well done to them. And I just feel that Johnny Palmer's got the players playing at their best. There's a lot of quality in that team. You look right the way through. There's some really good young players, and I can only see one way this is going to go, Rob, and that's a Laxey victory. And I fear for Foxdale at the moment, because I don't see what players they can bring in to try and change what they've got.
Indeed, well, 2 other games in the Calendar Life Men's Premier League this weekend. Out in the west of the island, Peel at the moment, sitting 8th, the defending champions at the moment. After 5 games so far, they've played the joint fewest so far, along with Union Mills. So Peel with 2 wins from their opening 5 at the moment. They're going to be hosting second from bottom Douglas High School Old Boys, who themselves, Tony, when you were speaking about teams needing points toward the bottom, Old Boys will, you would imagine, even on paper at least, they might seem the underdogs, but could just have that little bit of grit to try and get something from this.
Well, he could do. Martin King will be back in the team. He missed last week, so that's a big help at the back. Michael Hooper will miss it because he got sent off last week. I believe, is it George Kearns that's away now? He's back at university, I think. Cameron Brew, when I looked at them, they're really good, and just right the way through the team, they've got some good young players. Sam Halliday in goals, a massive plus for them. But Peel, I'm glad you've just given the stats out there, because if Peel won their 2 games in hand, or 3 they've got on Corinthians, but 2 on the others, then they would be right up there amongst it. And I expect Peel to be in the Railway Cup draw when the halfway stage of the season comes, which is usually about November. But I just feel, Peel at the moment, just getting back into the stride. And Thomas Brown, you can't forget how many goals he was scoring before the little break that they've had. And right the way through, they've got so much quality through there. Matthew Woods has been in good form. And, you look through defensively, the full-backs push on. But against Old Boys, I watched them last week, and yes, Robbie Ward and Drew Ward and others in there, but I just think it's tough going for that moment. I can't see them getting anything out of Peel.
And down south at Croyt Lowy, the remaining game, the Canada Men's Premier League, Russian United, who've had a blistering start to the season, albeit though with a little bit of a stumble the last couple of games, back-to-back defeats against Onken and St Mary's. They're going to be hosting Ramsey this weekend.
Yeah, and I think sort of Russian, when you look at the team that they've got there, and Cam Dudley's in there, and they've got other ones, Ashley Blake, Stevie Ridings, we know what quality he brings. But I think it's just a question of that, if they could get maximum points here off Ramsey, they're back in it. But Ramsey have been so unpredictable since the start of the season. I know there was a lot of players missing, but they've got some experienced players back in there, which is helping things. And certainly with Dylan Pickles, he'll mix it up and get the goals. But I just think, this one is going to be a real tight old game. And I just think the way the form is going at the moment with Russian, that Ramsey could take this one. And I'm going to go for Ramsey to beat Russian and take maximum points.
Those are your games of the Canada Life Men's Premier League coming up tomorrow. All games, incidentally, across the senior men's divisions tomorrow, kicking off at 2:30pm, with the exception of one game in Canada Life Combination 1, which we'll come to in a little bit. In the meantime, we'll turn to Ardern and Drug Unlimited Division 2. Now, we did originally have 4 games scheduled, Tony. There's now 3. What's happened with the game that's been postponed?
Yeah, what it was Governor's free week, and, that's fair enough. I made the phone call to see if they'd like a game of football. They did. But unfortunately, Governors had looked at the fixtures and thought, we're not going to have one here because, Castletown, it's their free week. But as I'm finding at the moment, this third match, it's a real problem trying to get some in. And some clubs are coming back to you and saying, listen, I know we asked for a free week at a certain date at the start of the season before you did the fixtures, but we're happy to play now. D&D was one of them. Castletown was 2. And it caught me out, really, to be honest with you. So I'll put my hands up and just say, if I hadn't made the phone call to Castletown, that wouldn't have been a postponement. But, I know Castletown feel aggrieved. They feel I should have put pressure on Governors to make it. But I think we understood the problem, and that's why the game has been postponed.
Very well. We do have 3 games taking place from 2:30pm tomorrow, I should say, in Ardern and Drug Unlimited Division 2. First off, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, who've picked themselves back into contention towards the top of the table in recent weeks. Just 4 points off Colby in second, and with a game in hand as well. Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, they're going to be hosting a Marown side who've only played 5, but they've won 3 of those 5 so far, Tony.
Yeah, they have, and I think the score that I took on board was last week when they scored 7, because I looked at that team sheet and I thought, why are they sort of struggling a little bit? But you've got to remember the amount of games that they've played. They've only played 5. They had that sort of, they don't play the first game of the season, and then after that they missed a game. But I think David Brew's squad is strong enough. The usual goal scorers were in amongst it last week. And, when you look at David Reynolds, when they signed him at the start of the season, you think, he's a really good defender and he can play in midfield, so they're going to be even stronger. And I think they'll climb up the league now. I really do, Rob. But certainly against Ramsey Youth Centre. Ramsey Youth Centre are going well. Tom Hall can score goals. OK, they've lost Ross Crawford, but they'll cover that, I think, because they've got enough quality in there. I'm going to go for Round, just current form to win.
And Douglas and District, they are at home this weekend. Their long winless run that was stretched all the way back into last season, continuing this season, 7 defeats from 7 so far, so still to get points on the board. They're going to be at home to Douglas Royal, 5th at the moment, Tony.
Yeah, D&D, I know at the moment they're a little bit unhappy with the way things are going. They've lost 2 or 3 players because, they're struggling at the bottom of the table, minus 32 goal difference. But what I will say is they're a great club, Douglas and District. They do things right, and they've got a team in each league. Okay, they're a bit light on players, and anybody out there looking for a good club to play for, Douglas and District is right in there amongst the best in the whole of Manx football, because they ran well, and credit to them for what they're taking on up at Nobles Park, Rob, with that massive mound of soil, and hopefully that's going to be flattened out before they start playing football. But against Douglas Royal, you'd expect Douglas Royal to take the points. I think also in there they've got 1 or 2 really good players. Sam Greasley, 1. They've also got Simon Dooley can get goals, and just there's 1 or 2 older players who've come in and sort of helped them, and that could be the difference between sort of them winning and losing this one. And I think Douglas Royal will win.
And the third and final game in our Durham Druggen Limited Division 2 this weekend. This could have an impact towards the top of the table. So as we've already heard, Castletown leading the way on 18 points. They do not have a game this weekend. In second are Colby at the moment, just a point further back after 7 games, 5 wins and 2 draws so far. No defeats. The only undefeated side in the division at the moment. They're going to be at home against a Pulrose United team, Tony, that have moved up to 4th and actually handed Castletown, the league leaders, their first defeat of the season last time out.
Exactly, Rob, and good stats that. And this was a game I want to go and see, but I knew Ben would have a heart attack who's doing classified tomorrow, because I wouldn't have got back before 5 o'clock, and we got to collate the scores. And that's one thing about the clocks going back, isn't it? Next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, it just helps us to get about more, because we get that half an hour to come back, because I know you have heart attack material as well. But this is going to be a super game to watch, and as you rightly pick out, that result that Pulrose had against Castletown was unbelievable. And Colby at the moment, with the players back in that team, have played really good. And when you look at Carl Hickey's in there, Steve Collister, but also Jordan Edge has started off really well. It's a real good set of players who play football, and I've been told that Pulrose look impressive when they're going forward with the players that they've got. And I just feel tomorrow, if Pulrose can get it amongst it, the bigger, more solid players, they're really strong at the back, Colby, then they might be able to expose them. But, I'd hate to have any money on this one, Rob, because you wouldn't know where to put it. I'm going to stick my neck out and just go for Colby just to pick Pulley.
Very well. Let's take a look at the Combination League fixtures, starting off in Canada Life Combination 1. We've got 6 games scheduled, Tony. One of those is the early kickoff that I mentioned just before.
Yeah, it is, and let's have a look at those. And St Mary's against Corinthians. Corinthians are third, very good young team in there, as where St Mary's are on 6th. I'm going to go for Corinthians to win. St John's against Union Mills. I'm going to go for St John's to take victory there. Onken against Braddon, I'll go with Onken to win. Laxey against Foxdale, as I've said to you the last couple of weeks, depends what side you're going to get from Laxey, but they're scoring plenty of goals. Laxey to win. Old Boys against Peel. I think both these sides have scored quite a few goals, so this could be a close game, but I'm just going to edge it towards Peel. And Ramsey against Russian. Well, look at that league table. Russian played 7-17. Ramsey played 7-17. Goal difference 25 for Russian. Goal difference for Ramsey 20. What a humdinger of a game this is, and this could have a major say in where the trophy's going to go at the end of the season. I'm going to go for Russian to win.
Very well, yeah. Again, just to put some extra numbers on what Tony's been saying there, Russian United and Ramsey first and second in Canada Life Combination 1 at the moment, both tied on 17 points, identical win records, 5 wins, 2 draws, both still undefeated. Russian United just ahead by virtue of goal difference. So yeah, that could be an absolute humdinger, as Tony puts it, of a game out there. And turning to our Durham Druggen Limited Division 2, a busy schedule yet again for Combination 2, I should say. Our Durham Druggen Limited Combination 2, another busy schedule this weekend. 6 games we've got on.
Yeah, and I think let's have a look at the first one. St George's against Jim's. St George's third from bottom. Wow, that's surprising, that one. But they've only had that one win. So against Jim's, who are fifth, I'll go for Jim's to win. Douglas Athletic against Maloo. Douglas Athletic third in the league. So you've got to go with Athletic to beat Maloo. Moran against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. Ramsey Youth Centre putting pressure on Pulrose at the top of the table, but Moran are good enough to mix it. They're in fourth, just behind them, but I'll go for Douglas Athletic to win. And then in the other game, we've got Michael United against Governors Athletic. I'm going to go for the 3 points to Governors Athletic. Douglas Royal against D&D. Douglas Royal and Pulrose against Colby. 2 big teams in that league, because I know Colby is struggling a little bit in 8th. They won it last year, but Pulrose absolutely flying. And there's a testament, Rob, in football. There's a team there 3 years ago were really struggling to sort of even keep themselves going, and now they're challenging for the top of the Division 2 and top of Combination 2. Absolute credit to everyone who's worked hard to make this happen.
Exactly. So yeah, again, just to add some numbers on what Tony's saying there, Pulrose United, a flawless start pretty much to the start of the Combination 2 season. 7 wins from 7, leading on 21 points. There is another team with a perfect record, Ramsey Centre and All Boys in second, 6 wins from the 6 they played, so a game in hand. They're on 18 points, and then just a further 3 points further back are Douglas Athletic in third. Tony, before we move on to Sunday's fixtures, of course, there was a bit of change again in terms of the teams taking part in the respective divisions this season, and the decisions by a couple of clubs Michael United, Gyms and also Douglas Athletic among them to field only a combination side this season. We're now several weeks in, well, a couple of months into the campaign at the moment, and there was some debate as to whether should teams only field combination sides, should they be fielding a Division 2 team as a priority. How would you say it's affecting the structure at the moment?
I think it's bad. I really do, Rob. I feel quite alarmed about this because, I'm not knocking the two teams. They look at it at the start of the season and say we're going to struggle here. I'll defend, I think, a little bit in sort of Gyms because Gyms have gained quite a few players from Onken. So, that's great. They didn't know that was going to happen and Gyms have struggled. But Douglas Athletic, when you see that team, there's a lot of quality in there. And they might be Masters players, but it doesn't matter. And I asked personally at the start of the season at a council meeting for the clubs to really help us at league management where we should go with this. And the sort of judgment by the clubs was that you have to use common sense. And we sort of look at Michael, we looked at Douglas Athletic, we looked at Gyms and thought, right, okay, if they're requesting it, they've got a problem, let's help us. I think time has come, Rob, that I'm certainly going to ask the Rules Revision to put it forward that sort of next season, from next season, that if you are only going to enter one team, it has to be a Premier League or Division 2 because I think it's becoming a little bit farcical. You can blame the FA as much as you want. We're there to protect the clubs. And when I look at the clubs over recent times, Rob, when you look at Braddon, Pulrose, Castletown, Colby, there are Oboes, there are others in there who have had difficulties and we've sort of helped them and it's sort of been okay. But, sort of when I look at Douglas Athletic, I'm not picking on them. They've only had one team for 3 or 4 years now. I think time has come that they need to try and turn it round so they've got two teams. So again, it goes up to the clubs and the clubs said we had the powers to look after it. The clubs had the opportunity to stop it, but they chose not to. So, maybe the people that are jumping all over my back and my committee's back at the moment need to remember that.
Okay, well, just very quickly, just for 60 seconds, just to look on the other side of it as well, from the team's perspective as well, is that if they feel they're in a position in terms of the quality of their squad, teams go through transitions, that they wouldn't feel maybe competitive enough in Division 2. Can you see that side of it? I
can see that side of it, but when you look at Division 2, when you look at Douglas and District, and when I said before, they do it in the right way, is you look at St George's, we knew they were going to struggle this season. You look at Governors Athletic, played 5-1. Governors Athletic have always worked hard. They've always got two teams out. They're always looking to improve. Sometimes you've got to do that to sort of attract players because I just wonder, sometimes if players just look at it, well, if combination 2, I think I'm better than that, and then they transfer. But I know it's difficult, but when I look at that team sheet for Douglas Athletic, it reads like a Division 2 side, I think, that can win the league. And there they are in combination 2. And let's face it, they've just been deducted 3 points, Rob, for a rule infringement. So they would have been even higher if it had come to that. But as I say, I'm not picking at them. All I'm being is honest here. From my own opinion, is that, it doesn't look good for the FA. But unfortunately, the FA's decision makers are the clubs. And the clubs made the decision to leave it to league management. And if we've got it wrong, we've got it wrong. We'll put our hands up.
Very well. We'll take a quick look at what's happening on Sunday. Well, the Canada Life Women's League, we've got 3 games penciled in, 2 o'clock kickoffs, and I've got to start, Tony, with what looks like the big one as well, the meeting of the 2 titans of women's football here on the Isle of Man at the moment. Corinthians up against the defending champions of Peel. Yeah, and Peel are languishing a little bit in the league at the moment, aren't they? Because they've missed a couple of games elsewhere with Corinthians, have had their free week. Yeah, and this is a huge game in women's football because these two teams are expected to be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. And, Corinthians, I would just say at the moment, maybe slightly stronger. Your mate's back in playing football, Jade Burden. She's put the gloves up at the moment, I think, and she's got the footy boots on. And, Jade scored in her last game, so great to see her back. But Peel are good, when you look at, right the way through the good young players that they've got, and also, the leadership of Becky Corkish. It's going to be a real good game to watch. So if you want to watch women's football at its best, go up to Ballafetch and watch Corinthians v Peel. But I'm just going to stick my neck out and go for Corinthians to take victory. Very well. Then over at Gary Moore, Union Mills up against Onken.
Onken, I thought, played really well last week against Corinthians. I know they lost, but people thought it might have been a little bit different. But I'm going to go for Onken to beat Union Mills. Union Mills are doing it the right way. They're learning how to play. I think the clubs are being very respectful towards them, and that's all that can happen. And, credit to the players and the management team doing a really good job, and I'm sure the victories are going to come.
And the third and final game sees Malou at home against Russian United. So a little bit of a Southern derby.
Southern derby, yes. And, great to see these two teams, or Russian back in. Malou have done really well over the last couple of years. Russian won last week, really good performance. What was it, 7 they got against the Millers? And, Malou, we know what they're capable of. 1 or 2 players missing for Malou this season. Tried to have a look at the team sheets, but, couldn't catch a couple of them. But I'm going to go for Malou to beat Russian.
And a very quick mention, we also do have 2 games in the Masters football on Sunday, both taking place at the Bowl. A 2:10 kick-off, Governors Athletic versus Douglas High School All Boys, and then following that straight after at 3:40pm, Colby versus Douglas and District. Tony, got around 60 seconds or so here. I just want to quickly get your thoughts on FC Isle of Man. They got their first win in, a couple of weeks, and some very much needed points away at Little and Remica last weekend. The first victory under caretaker manager Rick Holden. They welcome FC St Helens, who've looked impressive since they were promoted season before last as well. So, looking at the table with FC St Helens sat there just above mid-table. From FC Isle of Man's perspective, with a win on their back, is this a winnable game for the Ravens?
Every game's winnable, but it's just one of them. The team that they beat last week were bottom of the league, Rob, so we can't forget that one. But FC St Helens, they're, as you rightly say, good side, and I think this is probably the game that FC Isle of Man needed. Last week, probably expected. This week it's going to be a lot harder, and I'm sure that the implementations that Rick Holden's tried to get into that team now is starting to filter through what he wants them to play. He loves the wingers, left and right, so depends what he does, but we need to share the goal scoring responsibility, I think, Rob, from Charlie Higgins, because Charlie is an excellent player, but he needs a little bit of help to tap the ball away into the back of the net as well. So I'll be listening to you to see how you're getting on, because I'm missing the game tomorrow, and keep us posted.
Excellent, yeah, full live match commentary tomorrow at 6pm on Manx Radio AM 1368. We're going to be talking rugby and hockey up next.
Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio, turning our attention to the rugby action coming up this weekend. We have 4 Ireland teams in action, and 3 of those will be back on home soil across their respective competitions. To go through things, as always, with us is our rugby correspondent, Dave Christian. Dave, first of all, a very good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening, Rob.
So starting off with Douglas, we'll start in Regional 2 Northwest. It's already been a positive start to the season for Phil Kringle's team. 3 wins from their opening 4 games, and going into this weekend with a home tie up against Northwich, who themselves have had themselves a good start to the season. 4 wins from 5.
Yeah, and I want to be excited for Douglas, but it's just a little bit too early to tell just yet, but we're not far away. They've played 4, they've won 3, they've got a game in hand over everybody above them in the table, and a win in that game in hand would put them into 3rd place. The 2 teams above them would be Sandbach and North Ribblesdale. Douglas beat North Ribblesdale in their opening match, and they were leading against Sandbach with 10 minutes to go, and then it's had a little mini collapse at the end. So throw that all into the equation, and you've got Douglas not far away from challenging at the top of this league. Northwich are one of the teams above them. If Douglas can pull a 5-pointer out of the bag tomorrow, there's a very good chance that they'll go above Northwich, whatever happens in the game in hand. So that's quite important for them. The bedrock of their success so far this season has been consistent team selection. You put those weekly teams next to each other, there's very few changes. I think they lost Nathan Robson with injury. He missed a week. And I think Kyle Martin's had a little spell out. There's been a little bit of a changing around at halfback, but aside from that, they've had pretty much the same team out. Now, if keep your fingers crossed, because the longer that goes on, the more positive it's going to be for them. But it's inevitable that players, particularly at this quite high level in rugby union, are going to pick up injuries during the season. Fingers crossed nobody gets anything seriously hurt, but it's inevitable, I think, that Douglas will have to start making some tweaks to the selection. And that's why it's important for them to have such a strong squad there. And we watched Douglas Celts last week for Saturday Live, and there were some quality players there for Douglas in the Celts lineup. And that shows that they may just have the resilience below the first team to help carry this off. Time will tell. Kick-off down at Portachee is at 2 o'clock, and I'm going from memory there, so please correct me if I'm wrong. 2 o'clock at Portachee. And Douglas against Northwich. They've met, I think, 13 times before. Northwich are 9-4 ahead on wins, but that counts for very little. It's all about the moment. And I think at the moment, Douglas have just got a little bit of momentum.
Incidentally as well, just to put some numbers on that, it's actually a meeting of two of the best defences in the league so far. The fewest points against. Actually, Douglas have the best record so far. Just the 82 points against and 2 bonus points conceded, 2 try bonus points conceded as well. If Douglas were to continue this run, Dave, how important is that defensive aspect going to be going forward?
Yeah, I mean, playing rugby union, it's kind of about getting your body to have that second memory. So we do a lot, or we did a lot, I say, we do a lot. It's probably 20 years since I played now, but we do a lot of repetitive drills. You do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, till sometimes you get a little bit fed up with training because it's a bit samey. But what the training's trying to do is get your body to automatically get into the right position, make the tackle, pass the ball, offload the ball, catch the ball. And you're going through these drills all the time again. And those sort of training drills really help levels of concentration. It means at game time, the more you're drilling it, the easier it becomes to function on the pitch in circumstances where you're never really sure what's going to happen next. And rugby ball's a funny shaped thing, can bounce in just about any direction. And some of the drills they'll be working on in training are around the way the ball might bounce. But there'll be a lot of defensive drills as well, making your tackle, getting up onto your feet and get ready to make the next one, moving up in a flat line, making sure there are no gaps, communicating with each other as you're moving up and down to let everybody know what's happening, having that vision around the field to see which way are the opposition likely to take the ball. Are we short that side? Do we need to move cover to the left, to the right? All those things are going through the head. And the more and more they're working with Phil Kringle down there at Douglas. And I think Brent Snellgrove's got a little bit of hand in it as well. They're very experienced operators, and they will be instilling those drills in. And when it comes to defence, there's a lot of debate in sport. If you score more tries than the other team, you're going to win games, but you can't afford to neglect your defence. And sometimes at the top ends of sport, if you neglect your defence, you're going to have real problems. And it looks like Phil's got the guys working hard on defence. I know it's 4 games. Everybody else has played 5, so that might mislead the stats a little bit. But we'll see when that game in hand's played, and we'll see exactly where they stand.
Turning then to Counties 3, ADM, Lancashire and Cheshire, and both Ireland sides in this division, both on home soil this weekend. First of all, going to turn to Vagabonds. It's 3 defeats from 3, but they did pick up their first bonus point of the season last time out. And on the face of it, Dave, it looks like they've got a tricky test on paper against an Oral team who've only played 2 so far, but have won those 2.
Yeah, and Oral have the X factor in former professional cross-code rugby player Denny Solomona. He played professional rugby league for Samoa and then got a couple of England caps when he came to the UK to play. Former Sale Shark, he's still only in his early 30s, and Oral have somehow got the financial clout over the summer to hire him as a full-time player coach. I know Denny does also have a plumbing and central heating business in and around the Manchester area, so he does have his irons in other fire, but I think they've played 2 games. He made his first appearance last week in the game that was abandoned. Not sure why it was abandoned, but occasionally it's because a player may have a broken limb, they're unable to get themselves off the field, and you have to wait for an ambulance to come. And ambulance waiting times fluctuate wildly depending on what your postcode is. And if they can't get the player safely off the field before it gets dark, then they're going to run out of time to play the game. So those little things happen from time to time. But Solomona played last week in the abandoned match, and he scored as well. So he's going to be on the radar. And he's going to be a massive problem for Vagabond's midfield defence if he's going to be running at them from the centres. Now, no indication from Orrell yet that he's been selected or he's going to travel, but it could well be a tricky game for Vaggers. And Orrell, you would think with the former professional setup, he's going to drag players with him or make Orrell a popular place to go for players. So they may be a little stronger this season than they were last season when they finished rock bottom. Much will depend on Vaggers' team news. I haven't seen that yet. But if they've got full strength side at home, you've got to give them a good chance. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff there at Ballyfletcher if you want to go up and have a look. And I think the Vaggers will give them good value for money, but whether or not they've got enough to beat Orrell, I don't know.
Speaking of Vagabonds team news, got that right this moment. So this is your Vagabonds team to face. Orrell encounters 3 ADM Lancashire and Cheshire at Ballyfletcher tomorrow. It's Rhys Oliveira, Matthew Rockwell, Lewis Horton Casella, Harry Goodwin, Ed Knight, Gav Turnbull, Corn Theron, Leandro Marquez, Daniel Bonwick, Cam Finley, Josh Moden, Dave Keenan, Steve Wiley, Theo Head and Max Ingracia. And the 3 substitutes available for Franzi Gamish's team are Jacques Versluis, Matty Jones and Rob Pease. And elsewhere in Counties 3 ADM Lancashire and Cheshire, Ramsey will also be at home at Morag Park this weekend, and they're going to be hosting Ormskirk, who are 10th in the table at the moment with 1 win from their opening 4, Dave.
Yeah, this is probably, looking at the 2 domestic games, the Vagabonds are all Ramsey, Ormskirk. Probably on paper, Ramsey have got the better chance, given Ormskirk's, I was going to say poor start. I can't really say poor start because by comparison, Ramsey have had a poor start. They've played 3, lost 3. We've talked about Douglas having a tight defence. Ramsey don't have a tight defence at all. They've conceded more points than anybody else. But that's only, I think, with the thrashing they had at Bury when they lost 116-0 on the weekend of the wedding. We'll call it the Wedding Gate Affair down at Ramsey, just to take a bit of Mickey out of Eddie Lord, who was the player who did get married. But moving onwards and upwards, they give a good account of themselves last week. Like Vagabonds, they picked up a bonus point on the road. They were leading at half-time, and not for the first time this season. They actually led Congleton at half-time in week 1. Last week, they led Cole and Nelson at half-time. So there are signs of green shoots, I guess is the best thing to describe it for Ramsey. Missing a couple, though. Josh Lees popped a shoulder in the Colin Nelson game last week. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. And I haven't had an update on this yet, but Jake Richmond, who is so important to the Ramsey backline, Jake hurt a knee last week. That's the serious medical condition that men suffer, known as hurty knee. Jake is not available this week. We'll get an update next week. They go away to Clitheroe, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. Those are changes that were forced to the Ramsey setup. There's also a change that isn't being forced. Finlow Corkle will drop to the bench, and he'll be replaced by Finn Bradley in the back row. Other than that, the pack's unchanged from last week, which is another good sign for Ramsey. So fingers crossed. Kick-off at the Merrick Park is at 3 o'clock. Ormskirk staying overnight at the Palace Hotel and don't require an early jump out to get to a plane for 5:30 or whatever the time it is. So good news for Ramsey in the clubhouse for Ormskirk. 3 o'clock kick-off there at the Merrick Park.
And just to give you the details of that Ramsey team then, so your starting 15, numbers 1 to 15 in order in the forwards, will be Adam Dunlop, Ben Hardman, Michael Flynn, Joe Flanagan, Carl Schneer, Finn Bradley, Matthew Meakin and the captain Josh Cattine. In the backs, that'll be Dan Kelly, Tom Moffat, Braden Roche, Kieran Neal, Adam Dempsey, Will Millsop and Finton Cummins. And the 3 substitutes on the bench, Duran Collister, Finlow Corkill and Harvey Collister. Just a quick mention as well for Vagabonds Ladies, of course, because they are going to be on the road at Crewe and Nantwich in Women's NC2 North South.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to call this. The ladies have played even fewer than the men. Most teams in the league played 2 games. Vagabonds just the 1. The game against Old Winians was called off because of the weather. Aldwinians couldn't make the flight. Crewe and Nantwich played 2, won 1, lost 1. Vagabonds played 1, lost 1. Sale FC 1861, second team, is top of the table. They had a big win at Fletcher in week 1. The game was restricted to 10-a-side though, but I figured looking at that Sale team, it wasn't a bad looking outfit. There were no players in there with masses of first team caps, so Sale appeared to be playing it by the book, and fair and square, they appeared to be the better side early on. Vagabonds will want to play 15-a-side. They'll get a shot at it at Crewe and Nantwich. Crewe played 2, won 1, lost 1, so there's nothing to be afraid of for Vagabonds. Get a good, strong team out, go away, pick up some points, come back home, and then get settled for the next game. Crewe and Nantwich are definitely beatable. Vagabonds have got an interesting blend of youth and experience. They've got plenty of pace out wide. Freya Crow, we've seen her score 2 against Sale. She's definitely got the wheels to do the job. But in the forwards, Malin Campbell, Gribatazia are 2 names to watch out for. They'll be probably playing together in the back row, and they will give Crewe and Nantwich all sorts of problems if they get enough ball, and that's down to the rest of the forwards to try and win it for them.
Indeed. So just a reminder then of your Vagabonds Ladies lineup to take on Crewe and Nantwich in Women's NC2 North-South tomorrow away at Crewe and Nantwich. It is Becca Hicks, Maisie Murray, Gribatazia, Georgie Quayle, Sharon McCarrick, Charlotte Hurd, Malin Campbell, Meg Kerwin, Sammy Mack, Lauren Ellison, Leona McGovern, Becky Dunn, Rosina McNair, Holly Scott and Freya Crow. And the substitutes available are Lois Mooney, Iona Lee, Chloe Dillon and Holly Shea. Dave Christian, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Finally tonight, going to turn our attention to hockey, and after all the focus on the last couple of months has been on the start of the 2025 mixed hockey season, the respective mixed divisions, the Mixed Cup competitions get underway this weekend with the respective first-round ties across the Mixed Cup, Mixed Plate and Mixed Bowl, with the odd league fixture and one rearranged fixture to throw into the mix as well. To go through things, as always, is our hockey correspondent, Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening.
Good evening, Rob.
Well, looking at the Mixed Cup, we'll start with, so the top-tier competition as it is the Mixed Cup first round. So 4 ties in the first round of the Mixed Cup, and 2 of those games pushing back at 12:30pm. So the first of those in the south of the island, we'll see Backers B up against Castletown Celts. And Backers B, Ben, mixed start to the season for them with a couple of good results in here. Castletown Celts pushing right towards the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Castletown Celts sitting second in this league so far. Backers B currently sitting 6th in this league with just 3 points. Castletown Celts, though, have been looking really strong. 16 goals scored, but 11 conceded. When you look at Backers B, though, 12 goals scored, 19 conceded. So defensively, both sides could do better, but going forward, they both can score goals. So this could be interesting, but I think Castletown Celts will be too strong on the day.
And of course, we're basing it going into this really on league form, which, as we know, league and cup are separate, but that's what we have to base things on. And the other 12:30 pushback at the NSC is between Valkyrie and Harlequins A. Valkyrie 3 wins from their opening 5 games in the league so far. Harlequins A with just the 1 win from their 5 so far.
Yeah, and of course, these two met last weekend, and Valkyries only narrowly just got the win, a 2-1 win there in the league. So I'm sure Harlequins will want to try and get one back this weekend and get the win in the cup. Again, these two sides very nip and tuck in the league. Valkyrie is 3rd with 6 points. Harlequins 5th with 4 points. So there's not much in it between the two sides. I think this one possibly could go to flicks.
And there are 2 p.m. pushbacks in the Mixed Cup first round, and the first one of these, well, I think your reaction said it all when this first came out in the draw as well. It is 2 of the titans of the Premier League historically over the years. It is Vikings A against Backers A at the NSC.
Yeah, and when you did the draw, Rob, and this got pulled out, everything went mad. Let's put it that way. To have these two playing each other in the first round, which I would have said would have been your final, is going to be some spectacle tomorrow. And this is the game we're going to cover for Saturday Live. Backers A, 5 wins from 5, 36 goals scored so far, only 6 conceded. But then Vikings, again, have had a mixed bag of results recently, a couple of losses, but they have been scoring plenty of goals, though. 24 goals scored and 9 conceded. So, again, both sides going forward are really good. So, who could maybe come out on top? Could Vikings maybe have a turnaround here? Could this be a change of fortune?
Because there is that gap in the league, there's 5 points between the two sides. Vikings in 4th and Bacchus at the top as well, defending champions. So in league terms, it's quite a significant gap at this point in the season. But as you say, Ben, if both teams are scoring plenty of goals so far in a cup scenario where it is winner takes all in a particular fixture, does that change it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, both sides will want to make sure that they carry on their cup runs. I mean, Bacchus A will definitely want to make sure that they carry on their cup run, for sure, being the current champions of it.
And the other 2 o'clock pushback in the Mixed Cup first round is at Castle Rushen High School, and that sees Vikings B up against Castletown Southerners, currently the bottom 2 teams in the Premier League so far, Mixed Premier League.
Yeah, and I think this is another game that potentially could go to flicks. Southerners have looked good, but just not been able to get it over the line. Same for Vikings B as well, but both sides conceding quite a lot of goals going forward so far. But I think this could be another one that could go to flicks.
And then the mixed plate first round, only the 2 games in this because 2 teams also have byes as well. 12:30 p.m. at QE2, and that sees Ramsey A, 3rd in Mixed Division 1, up against Valkyries C, 4th.
Yeah, and both sides level on points when you look at the league standings, so this is definitely all to play for. I think these 2 sides have met so far in the league already, and it was a very close encounter between the 2 sides, so this could be another one that potentially could go to flicks.
And a later pushback at 3:30 at Ramsey Grammar School in the north sees a meeting of actually the top and bottom side of Mixed Division 1 at the moment. Bacchus C, 4 wins from 5, top of the division, up against Viking C, sitting bottom in the league at least, with 5 defeats from 5.
Yeah, and Viking C, I'm sure, would love to have a good cup run, but just at the minute, the league just hasn't been the best for them. Bacchus C, though, currently sitting top. They got back top foot thanks to Harlequins B getting that win over Valkyries B last weekend. So, looking at form, you'd have to go for Bacchus C on that one.
And quickly, we'll take a look at the mixed bowl first round. There are 4 ties in this one. 2 of those are early pushbacks at 11 a.m. One of those sees Bacchus Mixed Colts up against Castletown Camags. Both these sides are Mixed Division 2. Camags leading the way in the league at the moment.
Yeah, and they only just met 24 hours ago in a rearranged fixture, so will 48 hours difference make all the difference? And Camags get another win this tomorrow. We'll see what happens on the day, but Camags looking really strong at the moment. I'm going to go for a Camags win on that one.
And then elsewhere, we've got in the other 11 a.m. pushback at Castle Rushen High School. That sees Harlequin C of Division 2, of Mixed Division 3, I should say. And they're going to be coming up against Castletown Cosney, league above them.
Yeah, and of course, Cosney were promoted up to Division 2 last season from Division 3, but Harlequin C did beat them in the league last year. So could there be a cup upset on the card here? We'll wait and see.
And 2 o'clock pushbacks. One of those sees Valkyries D of Mixed Division 3, top of the league at the moment. Incidentally, they're up against Castletown Cushags. And the other, Ben, is at 2 o'clock, Ramsey Ravens versus Vikings D.
Again, Valkyries D and Castletown Cushags. Could that be another cup upset? Valkyries looking really good so far. Cushags just struggling a little bit in Division 2, and then the other one, Ramsey Ravens against Vikings D. Vikings D flying so far in Division 2, currently 2nd behind Camags, but scoring plenty of goals. I'm going to go for a Vikings D win on that one.
So the focus very much on the cup competitions, but we do have one league game taking place tomorrow. It's a rearranged one that was called off a couple of weeks ago due to Storm Amy, and that's Mixed Division 3, 11 a.m. at QE2. Bacchus Mixed Bucks up against Castletown Carrick.
Yeah, and Bacchus Mixed Bucks last weekend got the better of their own D team. Now, I would have said the D team would come out on top on that one, but Bacchus Mixed Bucks proved me wrong, so I need to do a bit more research in the coming weeks, absolutely. But again, Castletown Carrick, a young side full of upcoming talent, so could be an interesting game.
And just very quickly, got 30 seconds here. We do also have a number of Manx youth national sides in action this weekend.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of sides in the islands set up going away this weekend. They're going on the Manxman on Sunday morning. We wish them all the best, and hopefully it'll be the start of another good season with the island teams.
Indeed, we wish them the very best, Ben. Thank you very much for that. So if you wanted just a bit of a recap or just want further details on all the fixtures taking place in Manx football, rugby and hockey this weekend, all the details available over on the Isle of Man Sports Hub on www.manxradio.com. Thank you very much for joining us once again this evening, and many thanks to our correspondents this week as well. And if you want to catch up with anything that we've talked about on the show tonight, it will be available as a podcast later this evening. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and have yourself a wonderful weekend as always. But until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.